Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today I'm reacting to Bhakti Yoga, the Path of Devotion, Swami Sarvapriyananda. So, I understand what Bhakti Yoga is to a degree. That is the devotion to God and only God, and your focus should be only to God. And everything that you do should be for God. But I'm wondering if I can expand that definition, and that's why I wanted to do this, because we've done a few already, and I haven't gotten back to these different paths. And what I would hope that I could expand it to is a devotion to things in your life as well, to the betterment of your health, to the success of your life in general. But I don't know if it can expand out to that, because that means you're devoting your things to yourself as opposed to straight up to God. But I do like the idea of path of devotion. Maybe not bhakti, I suppose, but to devote to better yourself. So again, health, your life, your job, your house, your health, your whatever it is, devote time to specific things in your life, to focus on that until it is fixed, and then maintenance. And then devote your time to other things, but to always maintain the things that you've already devoted your time to, so that you don't have to redirect your devotion to that again, and you can just maintain these things that you have. Anyways, let's go ahead and get started.
Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness unto light, lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Of the four yogas, Bhakti Yoga is always most popular. So, one of the reasons I have kept it for the last. But why is it so popular? If in Jnana, the way of knowledge, we are that absolute reality and we do not know ourselves, and all we need to know is that we are Brahman. If it is so direct, if it is so effortless, if it is so instantaneous, then one should ask, why are not more people enlightened? If it's so easy and direct, there should be more Brahmagyanis, Jivan Muktas walking around. Well, the problem is with the fine print. If you look carefully, terms apply. Terms and conditions apply. What are the terms and conditions? Terms and conditions are the fourfold qualification. Viveka, discernment between the eternal and non-eternal. Vairagya, dispassion for the non-eternal. Then the sixfold treasures, these are disciplines. Shamaha, quietude of the mind. Quietude of the mind means focus of the mind on Vedanta. Damaha, control over the sense organs, motor organs. Then Uparati, that means withdrawal from too much engagement with the external world. If you're working all week and partying all weekend, then no time for Vedanta, no energy also. So, Uparati, withdrawal from too much engagement with the world. Then, and by the way, one meaning of Uparati, secondary meaning is sannyasa, becoming a monk. Withdrawal from engagement with the world to that extent where one actually formally becomes a monk. So that's the secondary meaning of Uparati. Then, Samadhana, having withdrawn, now you have time and energy to dedicate. What do you do with that? Samadhana, focus. Settle down. Settle down on what? On Vedanta. Then Titiksha, a spiritual toughness, a fortitude, that no matter what problems life throws at me, I shall pursue this spiritual goal. I shall pursue enlightenment. That is Titiksha. Then there is Shraddha. Did I miss anything? Shama, Dama, Uparati, Samadhana, Titiksha, Shraddha. A firm faith in the teachings of the Guru and the scriptures. Firm faith in the sense that these are true, but I don't understand them yet. Let me work at it, I will understand it. To that much conviction should be there. Then, if you have, and then mumukshutvam, intense desire to be free. So, 1, viveka, 2, vairagya, and then in number 3, 6 are packed. So, a little bit of cheating there. They say fourfold qualification, but actually number 3 there are 6. So that makes it 8 already. And then number 9 is mumukshutvam, intense desire to be free. If we have these, then we are qualified for Vedanta. You might say, in what sense qualified? I can buy the book, I can attend the retreat, I can listen to the talks. Why do I need all of that? Yes, we can, but we will not get the benefits thereof. What is promised there, we will not get. Remember, no need to be disheartened. These are not all or nothing. We all have it to some extent. That discernment is there to some extent at least. Otherwise, why would you be here? Nice Labor Day weekend, could have relaxed, gone on a trip, vacation. So we have a discernment that there is something valuable to be sought in spiritual life. We have vairagya, dispassion, because to come here requires as an opportunity cost, something else you gave up to come here. So that vairagya is there. So if you look at us, anybody who is in the spiritual path has these qualifications to some extent. That's the problem. To some extent is not enough. In Vedanta, these must be of a very high order of excellence. Otherwise, what happens is, if one still pursues Vedanta, then different grades are there. One is, there will be either no interest, or there will be interest but incomprehension, or there will be comprehension. There will be interest and comprehension. I'm beginning to understand, but inability to put it into practice. Or there will be attempt at practice. The struggle will be too much. It seems too dry and steep a path. I understand this, but the moment I take it out for a drive in the road, it's too difficult. So these are the problems. I've seen this happen. Strange contradictions come up. If the lower nature is not purified, and we understand these things, Swami Vivekananda puts it very beautifully. He says, in this path, many come to an understanding, few realize. Because of the basic conditions which are required. So one may understand, actually, quite a clear understanding may be there. I have met scholars, pundits like this, who really have understood Vedanta. That in what is Brahman, in what sense we are Brahman, but the problems persist. I mentioned one scholar yesterday, 95 years old, whom I had asked about Sankhya and Vedanta, and he gave a wonderful answer. But he has passed away, so I can mention it. That in his old age, he turned to astrology. So somebody asked him, you have mastered Sankhya and Yoga, I mean the philosophy at least, and Vedanta. But then why in this old age astrology? That's another field of traditional learning. Jyotisha. It's a pretty sophisticated field of ancient learning. Why astrology? After all of Vedanta and Sankhya and all of that. And his answer was instructive. He said, there is no money in Vedanta. So at the age of 80, he decided that he has not earned enough money. And see, this is the difference. Here is this 2 case studies. This great scholar, so one of the things he always considers as a part of his resume, his great achievement. This will make sense only to people who have come from India, I mean those who know the Indian scene. That one of the superstar in the Bollywood movie, Bachchan, yes, Abhishek, when he got married, and the film actress who was like a superstar of Bollywood movies, Aishwarya Rai, yeah. So it seems there was the astrological charts have to match, and there was some problem. And so this is one of the greatest scholars. He was actually called for consultation by the top Bollywood family. So he was flown from Calcutta to Bombay by plane, and he has to give his what is called his opinion on that. Now that he considers as a high point of his career. This great Vedantin, and all right, fine. There is a childlike pride in it. Case 1.
Real quick, I wanted to pause it a little bit sooner. what he said earlier about how a lot of people understand it, yet still there's problem exists. I feel like that's where I'm at. I don't necessarily fully understand it. I do understand it to a degree. How much of a degree, I don't know. I just understand what I understand, and I'm sure there are many other things that out there that I think I understand and I don't, and things I don't understand because I don't know them yet. And a lot of the ways of life that I follow is very similar to their teachings, but my ways are just like halfway points to a degree, because there will always be problems, but it's to ease the problems. And I do believe maybe the full-blown version of that is to have no problems at all, which I don't think mine will ever be the case. There will always be problems.
Case 2.
My way of life.
I will not name her. She is living now. She is a nun, an American lady. She went to Banaras, spent a lot of time in our hospital there and served people there. And daily she would go, she's a white American lady, daily she would go to the temple of Vishwanath. And the priests there, they saw her and they realized that she is serious, and so they used to let her in separately. She would go in there and she would worship the Lord Vishwanath in the traditional way and all that, every day, early in the morning. One day she said, usually there's a long queue. One day she said there was nobody. There was heavy security all around. And so anyway, she was waved through because the priest said let her through. She went in and did her usual puja, japa, meditation. And she noticed only 2 or 3 others were there. Probably somebody very special. A young man and obviously somebody, a young lady, he's probably his wife, and 1 or 2 elderly people. Probably a very privileged family. So they were there and they performed the worship also, and then they were let out and she also walked out, and then the whole crowd was let in. They were all standing in a long queue that early morning. So she asked, who are they? They said, oh, don't you know? That is Abhishek Bachchan and Aishwarya Rai that come to the temple to offer. She said, all right. I told her, Mataji, you don't know. In India, this would be a great news. People would be so gratified to know that they were in close proximity with. Now, you see these 2 case studies. One is a person fully learned in Sanskrit and in all the scriptures and everything. But what is lacking? The 4-fold qualification is not high enough. Vairagya, dispassion, is not high enough. So that seems glamorous to him. And here is this other person who has no interest in these things. So she lives in Hollywood. She met the top people in Bollywood, but it makes no impression on her. She is interested in Vishwanath. She is interested in the puja. This is the difference between having the 4-fold qualification and not having it. It has nothing really to do with learning or understanding Vedanta. That's a different thing altogether. Do you get the point? Now what happens is contradictions come up like that. So in Uttarakhand there is a saying, Rota hua jnani kisko pasand hai? Jnani, person of knowledge, who says, I am Brahman, but has many complaints. I often say, if you are enlightened, if you claim enlightenment, you have given up the right to complain. In the path of jnana, you have no more right to complain. If you are really Brahman and if you are convinced about that, if you have clarity, if you claim that, how can you complain? What have you got to complain? What complaints does Brahman have? 1. On the path of bhakti, you have given up your right to be unhappy. It is a sin. In Vaishnavas, they consider the very interesting practices. For example, it is a sin to be unhappy in the presence of God. My little miseries, my little problems, no. You cannot bring this to the presence of God. You may offer it to the Lord, and Lord, you take care of it, but after that, if I am a bhakta, if I have devotion to God, I should be able to let go of it and let the Lord handle it. I should delight in the presence of God. Unhappiness in the presence of the Lord is an offense against the Lord. There are many interesting practices which we don't talk about in Advaita Vedanta, but if you follow any of the dualistic schools, they make interesting sense. For example, in the deity, in the presence of the deity, for example, a temple and the deity is there, you cannot bow down to anybody else. That's why we don't take pranams in front of Sri Ramakrishna. You cannot sit with your legs extended towards the deity. You cannot eat in front of the deity. Of course, it's prasad you may take, but usually people step outside to take that. So there are many, many interesting little practices. These may seem little rules, but they are all meant to enhance our awareness of the divine presence.
I was gonna say that is a lot of nitpicky rules, but to, I guess, practice them in front of the divine, I guess it does make sense, because it really does make you aware. So if these rules are in place and you want to follow them, you have to be constantly aware. I do wonder, is it just the one statue, or whatever it may be, whatever divine may be, are there many of them? If there are many of them, does it apply to all of them? I'm not exactly sure how it's done, because in the U.S., there is the cross with Jesus on it, and there's the one in the church that everyone prays to. Then there's people hang them in their houses, to wear them in necklaces. But there's no rule there saying that you can't face Jesus, you can't eat in front of Jesus or anything. I don't know if that's the same in this particular path or not. Like if they have ornaments or something to represent the God. And yeah, so I'm just wondering, or maybe only that place has the God and nowhere else is the God. So therefore, when you're there, you have to be aware of that. When you're outside, then you're fine.
That it is there. The most important person in your life, whom you consider to be really great, how will you behave in the presence of that person? Now consider someone 1,000 times greater than that. How will we behave in the presence of that divinity? So, bhakti is a remedy for all these problems, that which the lower nature not purified. I'm going for jnana. What happens is, for example, I have seen a monk who was a really great Vedanta teacher also, that he would lose his temper quite often. Now what was his explanation? The temper, losing the temper. Anger is an object in the mind. All perfectly all right. Drigdrishya Vivek and all that. It has nothing to do with me. I'm sort of imitating what he would say. Now, technically is correct, but it is not a pleasing sight to see.
Wait, so is he using that as, in a sense, an excuse to excuse his anger problems? It's like, hey, look, that's not me doing that. That's my body and my mind. That's...
Once he took an apple from the pantry, and the person in charge of the pantry in the monastery, where the food is kept, so he sort of unwisely said, "Swami, who took the apple without asking?" And the Swami was furious. He said, "What? Are you accusing me of being a thief? I am a great master of Vedanta, and you are accusing me of being a thief." And he went on and on and on about it. Now, रोता हुआ ज्ञानी किसको पसंद है? The jnani who, rota means crying, complaining, grumbling, unhappy. Why is this problem there? This problem will not be there if the lower nature is purified, if the fourfold qualifications are there. But then what is the advantage of bhakti there? Do we not require qualifications? Is it so easy? We can be anything and still be a devotee? No. But the qualifications come pretty easily. The sadhana required for this qualification comes pretty easily, because love is there. Sri Krishna was asked this by Arjuna, which is easier, the path of knowledge or the path of devotion? And Sri Krishna was very clear. Avyakta hi gatir dukkham dehavadbhir avapyate. The path of the unmanifest is difficult, fraught with suffering, with strain for the embodied. Now one must understand this. Embodied, everybody is embodied. Even the jnani, all the great devotees, jnanis, all are embodied. But embodied means if we are far too mixed up, if our primary identity is this body-mind, which unfortunately it is for most of us, in that case it's very difficult to live your life in the understanding of jnana, according to the understanding of jnana. Understanding of jnana can come. Understanding of the teachings of Vedanta can come pretty easily. But to live your life according to that is a struggle. So, in our order, we always recommend Jnana Mishra Bhakti. Jnana is there, knowledge is there, supported by, combined with, synthesized with devotion, with love. Of course, Swami Vivekananda recommended all four. knowledge, devotion, service, and meditation. All four should go hand in hand. That
All four. Whoops, did I skip too far ahead? No! Let's see, oh, where was I at? Oh no.
so easy. We can be anything and still be a devotee. Suffering with strain for the safest path.
Oh, here it
How
is.
Vivekananda recommended all four: knowledge, devotion, service, and meditation.
So knowledge is jnana, devotion is bhakti, service. No, yeah. Which one's action? Karma. Service, karma. There we go. Okay, and meditation. Okay, I got it. When I think of karma, I think of action, not service. And okay, I get it. Yeah, and he did say, in fact, karma was service. I was looking for that one.
All four should go hand in hand. That's the best and the safest path. How is bhakti easier? Bhakti does not say, we start with the eternal, non-eternal discernment and give up the non-eternal, catch on to the eternal. No. Bhakti just says, to all the things in your life, do one more thing. Just add God to your life. It may be the last thing. I joke sometimes. In the list of 100 things in your life, last may be dog and 101 may be God. G-O-D. But if you add God in whatever, add. How will you add? This is the trick. This is the technique. Add as my Lord. Mamata means add with this sense of mineness. My Lord, my Krishna, my Rama. Add in that way. That is very important. Not add as another object in your life. This tendency which we have to grasp onto things as me and mine, direct that towards God. My Lord. What happens when you do that? Slowly, the Lord has such extraordinary power, He'll begin to spread over your life. That bhikshu pada prasarana nyaya. Bhikshu means the wandering holy beggar. In India, they go around and ask for food and all you give. So one person comes for shelter in your house and says, a wandering beggar, holy man, I don't need anything, give me one corner, it's enough. All right, go there. The bhikshu pada prasarana in Sanskrit means the beggar stretching his legs out. So it's like the camel's nose, but in a good way. He says that now I need a little more room to stretch my legs out. Okay. What does he say? I'm here in this corner, but I have the little image of Gopala. And Gopala has to be installed, so a separate corner is necessary, pure place. You say, all right, put Gopala there, fine. Next day in the morning, you find in the garden he's picking flowers. All your best flowers he's picking. Yes, best ones should be offered to Gopala. You say, what can I do? After all, it is Gopala. Then you go to cook your food. Wait. Prasad, the bhog has to be offered to Gopala, food offerings to Gopala. And that has to be cooked first. And separate corner has to be there. The Lord's corner has to be there in your kitchen. In this way, slowly the little Gopala takes over different parts of your life. And that is a blessing. That's a great, great blessing. This is called bhikshu pada prasarana nyaya. In a very gentle way, in a very sweet way.
I was thinking, it's like, man, it seems like it's creeping into this house and taking over it completely, which was very scummy at first. But I get what he's saying with the example there, actually, and it's something that I was going to pause a little bit earlier, but I wanted to hear what he said. It's the fact that, again, so bhakti can be used for devotion and other things, like he was talking about. All you do is just add, instead of devoting it to yourself, you devote it to God. So basically, I don't know if it would be considered a lie or not. But say you I don't know if you could, I don't know if, again, I guess I still need to listen to him a bit more, but you can say, I need to get a car, for practical purpose. I need to be able to go get food, go to work, drive people to certain areas. And you devote your efforts into that. But instead of devoting it for you, you devote it for God. That's basically what he said. And so basically, and any little thing that you do in life, you devote it to God instead of to yourself. and you devote your time into that, and eventually everything you do becomes devotion to God. Kind of like in that house where, you start off in a little corner, then you stretch the leg a little bit, then the little corner, the other corner, and then the corner of the kitchen for the food for I forget the name, but eventually it starts. The entire house becomes devoted to this God, and it's the same way with how you just washing the dishes you devote to God. It's like, I'm going to wash these dishes for God, and then all of a sudden I'm going to clean this kitchen for God, and then you start. It started off with the dishes, then it became the kitchen, the living room, the bedrooms, the surrounding the house, the yards, and your car, and yourself. It just expands out from there, where you realize that everything you're doing is becoming a devotion to God. Every
It is
action
not
that
that
you do.
spiritual sadhana does not need to be done in bhakti. Yeah. But the sadhana is no longer seen as a tough spiritual practice. When you love somebody, when parents love their children, so you cook, you bathe the child, cook for the child, send the child off to school, and you bear a lot of difficulties in raising the child. Are you saying that I am practicing compassion? No, because it comes out of love. It's very natural.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's
So
natural.
when spiritual practice is based on love, it is natural. The devotee never thinks, I have to practice love to God. No.
And I'm sorry to pause it there again, but this kind of goes back to a lot of Christians, actually, or I don't know if a lot of Christians, just Christians in general. I don't know if it's all of them or how many of them. But they devote a lot of their stuff to their God, and it's something that I didn't like, because I wish people would understand that it is of their accord that this is happening, that without them doing this, it would not happen. God themselves is not doing it for you. You are doing it for yourself. And this right here, I guess now I understand that portion of them, of what they do. I don't know. It's still weird for me, because especially when I worked in the hospital, and then you have people saying, "Oh, thank God for this, thank God for that." It's like, well, you should be thanking your doctor. He's the one that saved your life. If you want to thank God, just stay at home and pray to God that He cures you. Hey, look, if it works and it does it, you got it. But I mean, I just wish to give some credit to the people who actually do the work as well. If you, I've seen a YouTube video where this guy has a lot, like a yard work business, where he goes, cuts grass, trim up the edges, make it look really nice. And it's a lot of hard work, it's a lot of labor in it, but you have equipment to help you out. Anyways, he just goes to say he cut this one person's yard. It's like a military person, and it's overgrown. He wasn't there, he was deployed, and now he's getting back, and no one was there to take care of his yard, so he decided to do it for him, because as a thank you for his service. And I could only imagine if that military person goes, "Oh, thank God for cutting my yard," instead of thanking the person. And the person that does the lawn mowing thing, he's practicing religion as well. I believe he's a Christian person, so he probably wouldn't mind. But I would say, you could thank God. But I mean, come on. If I did it, it's like, I chose to do this. I did not do it because someone else told me. I did it out of kindness of my heart.
It's not a practice. That's a very word that a devotee will feel uneasy with. I love my Lord. There is one of the sutras in Naradiya Bhakti Sutra, very interesting, expresses the glory of bhakti. What is the glory of bhakti? One sadhu in Uttarakhand is saying this. Are bhakti ki wo mahima, bin sadhan ke siddhi, bin gyan ke amritatva, bin bhog ke tripti. What does it mean? There is a sutra in the Naradiya Bhakti Sutra, siddho bhavati, amrito bhavati, tripto bhavati. One becomes perfected by bhakti. One attains immortality by bhakti. And one becomes completely satisfied, fulfilled by bhakti. Now note, in spiritual life, perfection, siddhi, perfection, that is connected to another word, sadhana. You do a spiritual practice and then get perfected. How does one get perfected in music or in a sport? You practice and practice and practice, then perfection. Similarly, in meditation, in the Vedantic vichara, in yogic meditation, whatever it is, It takes long practice. That practice is called sadhan. Sadhan means spiritual practice. Sadhan leads to siddhi. That's the general understanding. And here, what is the Bhakti Sutra saying? Without sadhan siddhi. Without practice perfection. How? Just through love of God. That itself actually includes the practice, but you don't feel it. Bin sadhan ke siddhi. Without, what an attractive proposition. Without any practice. So each of these spiritual paths is doing a good job of selling them. Jnani will say, instantaneous, effortless. Bhakti says, without any practice you will become perfect. Come here.
I just thought of this, and I'm wondering if it's true. I don't know if I not misheard him, but didn't hear it, or I'm wondering if the needs of yourself, you start to associate that as the needs of your God. Like if you're hungry, and just a quick example, if you're hungry, then you say, oh, my God is hungry, let me fulfill that for him. So you go and get something to eat. It's like, oh, I ate too much, I need to exercise, or I'm too full. I don't know. You just start associating everything with God and not to yourself. And that way you devote everything to God, including your hunger, any needs that you have. Even though He says you give your needs to God and He'll take care of it. But I'm wondering if you associate your own needs as something that your God needs, and therefore you fulfill that need for your God instead of for yourself.
In Harvard, there was this session where all the professors come and sell their courses. Sell means they have to convince the students. Because for a long time, if no student joins up, then you are in trouble. Your job may be in trouble. So you have to show how good my course is. Then Amritatva, immortality. We realize, Upanishads say again and again, by jnana one attains immortality. By knowledge, by enlightenment, one attains immortality. We just chanted before every session, Mrityu ma amritam gamaya, lead me unto immortality. How? Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, from darkness to light, from ignorance to knowledge, from the unreal to the real. So the knowledge takes me to immortality. How does knowledge take you to immortality? Because when we think that we are this body and mind, we are bound to this body and mind, and the death of this body is my death. We do not question it. I will die one day. But what you mean is the body will die. But if it is at all true that you are not the body, then the death of the body is not your death. That's what spirituality, religion claims. But for that one must be clear, what is it about me that does not die? And one must actually experience it. So jnana leads to immortality. But what is the sutra here saying? Amrito bhavati becomes immortal just by love of God. It does not even mention jnana there. That's why the sadhu said, bin jnana ke amritatva. Again, remember, one must understand it properly. It's not that the devotee has no knowledge. Knowledge comes. God gives that knowledge to the devotee. Whatever is necessary for the devotee, that enlightenment is given by God. Sri Ramakrishna is to say,
so basically, if I understand it correctly, and I don't remember if I said it in earlier videos, but basically you don't have to worry about knowing anything or in a sense doing anything. The only thing you should focus your life on is to God, and that is all. Everything else is taken care of. Actually, he did say that in another video. Bhakti yoga is you devote yourself to God. Don't worry about anything else. Everything else will be provided for you.
The Divine Mother has shown me whatever is there in Vedanta and all. Shown me means given the direct realization of that. And the last one, tripto bhavati, satisfaction, fulfillment. The understanding is bhoga leads to tripti. Bhoga means experience, enjoyment. Do you remember in Sankhya we read the Prakriti gives bhoga and apavarga? That means it gives experience. So by experiencing, I have many desires. I want to see a vacation, I want to see those sites, I want to eat this food, I want to visit those places, I want to meet these people, I want to have such experiences. And what will you gain by these experiences? I will be fulfilled, I'll be satisfied, smiley face. Every advertisement shows that. Vacation, Bahamas trip. Not now, the storm is coming. But fulfillment comes by satisfying our desires. Bhoga. That's at least the claim, that's the advertisement. It doesn't come actually, but more new desires take their place. But here what does the Bhakti Sutra say? Tripto bhavati. By devotion alone, by love of God alone, one becomes completely fulfilled. Bin bhoga ke tripti. Without trying to experience worldly pleasures, one becomes fulfilled, completely fulfilled. And those who are chasing worldly pleasures, they go from thirst to thirst. So this is the glory of bhakti. But remember, it does not mean that you don't have to practice spiritual disciplines. It does not mean that jnana has no role to play. It does not mean that, one can, I just believe in God and everything is done for me. No, not at all. It is also a path. All right. Now, in this path, there are some big supports. Few things let me say. One is the name of God. The other one is the form of God. In Hinduism especially, we worship God in a variety of forms. Narayana, so many different beautiful images. Vishnu, Krishna, Rama, the avatars of God, Devi. Today is Ganesh Chaturthi, so Ganesha. I thought Ganesha would be the most peculiar thing for Westerners. But I found Ganesha is very popular in United States. When I came to California, everywhere Ganesha icons, and people are they identify Ganesha immediately with Hinduism. So I asked an American here, why is Ganesha popular? I thought Ganesha you would find it strange. Elephant god. Then he said, oh, who doesn't love an elephant? Elephants are cute. So in that sense, so different forms of God. And these forms are meant to attract and fix our attention. Are these imaginary? No. Mystics throughout the ages have experienced God in these forms. See, what is the connection between this form and the formless? Sri Ramakrishna says, he gives an example. He had gone to see how a photograph is taken. In those days, there would be plates which would be exposed, and there would be this coating of silver nitrate on them, and then an image would be formed. So he was very much taken by that idea. And he gave an example. Whatever he would see interesting in the world, he was very curious. But everything he would connect back to God realization. Once he went to the zoo, and the first thing he saw was the lion. That reminded him of Durga, whose mount is the lion. And he immediately went into samadhi, and that was the last thing he could see in the zoo. People were saying, I wish you had seen more, then we would have had many more examples. But so once he saw this, how the photograph is taken, and he liked the idea. He said, just as in the glass plate, the mixture is applied, and then the light passes through it, and it leaves an image. That's how the photograph was taken in those days. Similarly, if the mind is smeared with a mixture of, in Bengali he said masala, with the mixture of love, then what happens is, when you have enlightenment, it will be with the form of God, the form in which you love God. So the devotee will have the experience of enlightenment with the vision of God, with a vision of a particular form, the way he saw Kali, the way Mirabai saw Krishna. So if he says, just the purified mind, just light will pass through it. That is, I think it stands for the Advaitic enlightenment, the formless realization. So light streams to a clear glass. But the glass smeared with the silver nitrate and all, a picture is taken. Similarly, with the bhakti in the mind, when we devote ourselves, the result will ultimately be vision of God in the whichever culture you are brought up in, whatever your practice has been. There is this beautiful story I like of Ramanujacharya, who was the great teacher of Vishishtadvaita Vedanta. So in Srirangam, where the beautiful image of Ranganatha Swami is there, it's an image of Vishnu, but the reclining Vishnu. Again, remember, couch potato, he was always...
Okay, I said reclining Vishnu. I'm like, reclining, you mean like a chair? It's like it's couch potato. Okay, I got it.
So, Vishnu in the cosmic dream on the Sheshanaga. So, it's a big image. And on festive days, the tradition is, of course, you cannot take the big image out. There are festive images called Utsava Murti. So, on festival days, those small images are taken out in procession, accompanied by chanting and music and worship, and thousands of people congregate. So this story is about one such festival more than about 1,000 years ago. Just imagine, in Srirangam during Ramanuja's lifetime, 1,000 years ago. And this big festivity was going on in the temple, thousands of people, the processions going on, and the music being played, and the chanting and all of that, and devotional fervor. And the great saint, Ramanuja was already very well known by that time, because he lived to 120. He was already very well known as a great master by that time. He was going with his disciples near the temple actually. Now what happened was, in that huge crowd, they noticed something anomalous. One young man, very powerfully built, he was holding an umbrella over the head of a young girl and looking at her continuously, not at the image of the Lord which was going. And everybody, they were looking at the procession, and those who noticed this behavior, they were commenting, criticizing. What kind of behavior is this in a temple? And isn't he ashamed of his behavior? Ramanuja noticed that from a distance. He sent somebody, call that young man. And the devotees were also taken aback. Why is Ramanuja paying attention to this man? So they went and said to him, do you know our master Ramanuja, who's very well known at that time? He said, yes, please come, he is calling you. So he immediately puts the umbrella down, he walks over to Ramanuja and bows down. And Ramanujacharya asks him, who are you? And what are you looking at? And why are you holding the umbrella over that girl's head? Who is she? So he replied, I am Dhanurdas, I am a wrestler. And her name is Hemamba. And she has the most beautiful pair of eyes in the universe. That's why I'm looking at her. And I'm holding the umbrella over her head.
I will say that's kind of creepy. But let's see what it has to say.
The others all were scandalized. What sort of way is this to talk to our master? But Ramanuja was not taken aback. He said, very good. Do you want to see an even more beautiful pair of eyes? More beautiful, the most beautiful pair of eyes in the universe? He said, yes, of course. Then come today in the evening to the temple of Vishnu and come into the inner sanctum there. Will they let me in? You say that I have called you. It just reminds me of the first chapter of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna, after talking to M is very fascinated with Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna says, come there, come to somebody's house. I'm going to Calcutta, come and meet me there. I'll go there, there'll be more singing and talking about God there. M says, will they let me in? And Sri Ramakrishna says, tell them I called you. I invited you. So that's a very important thing. You must get the Lord's invitation. So Ramanuja says, tell them I invited you. In the evening, the prayer is going on, and this Dhanurdas has entered. Ramanuja calls him by his side, come. It's dark. The Garbhagriha, the inner sanctum is dark, and the image is very big. And the priest waves the lighted lamp in the evening with the chanting and the music. And different portions of the body of the image are lit up. Now there is a very beautiful verse which says that if you behold the face of Hari, Vishnu, in the light of the evening arati lamp, if you behold the face of the Lord with devotion, the sins of 1,000 lifetimes are wiped out. So it's just to encourage devotion. It's a very beautiful hymn. I've forgotten the original Sanskrit. Now as he waves the lamp light, and the light falls on the face of Vishnu, which is a big image. Ramanuja catches hold of the hand of Dhanurdasa and says, "Look, the most beautiful pair of eyes in the universe." And Dhanurdasa looks at the face of Vishnu, and God looks back at him. It becomes alive, and he can see into the face of God. And every hair on his body stands on at the end, and he goes into samadhi. Ramanuja, who's touching him, goes into samadhi himself. And people all around are stunned. So that's how Dhanurdasa was transformed into a great devotee. He married that girl later, Hemamba, and both of them were well known as very great devotees. There are many, many beautiful stories about them. But see, the form of God is a powerful support for bhakti. Emotion needs an anchor. So at the beginning, it may be a picture, it may be an image, it may be whatever it is, but some form where you focus your love, your devotion, your attention. To say the witness of all thoughts and the pure consciousness which can never be an object, unfortunately very difficult to love that. Whatever, are you thinking about it? Yes, then it is not it.
Oh man, it cannot ever be an object. Wow. Yeah. If you're thinking if there's any kind of existence to it, well, then it cannot be it. So therefore, you cannot ever think about it. Wow.
Are you meditating on it? On Brahman? Yes, then that is not Brahman. Brahman is the one which is meditating. All that is good and it can be understood, but very difficult to focus your mind on that. It's extremely difficult. We need, and the mind always looks for object. 10th person outside. The beauty of the name and form of God is it provides a divine object. There are objects provided by nature, throughout nature. All these objects are there. But the problem is these objects entangle us in samsara. Worldly names and forms. Sri Ramakrishna called it Vidya Maya, Avidya Maya. All of it is Maya. If it is anything which is an object, so it does not deviate 1 inch from Vedanta. Anything which is an object is a name and form. Otherwise it cannot be objectified. But name and form is always part of Maya. But then in Maya there is a division. Vidya Maya, Avidya Maya. Avidya is ignorance, the Maya of ignorance, which entangles us further and further in samsara. What is the harm in that? Harm is it leads to unhappiness, dissatisfaction. Vidya Maya is that which frees us from samsara. That's also an object. That's also a name and form. The divine names and forms, for example. Do you notice the connection between this ancient philosophy of Sankhya and all these things? The Vedantic idea of Maya, from Sankhya, the Prakriti of Sankhya to the Vedantic idea of Maya, from the Vedantic idea of Maya to in Bhakti we are talking about Vidya Maya and Avidya Maya. See the continuity. What does the Prakriti of Sankhya do? It gives the sentient being experience and experience in samsara, bhoga, and apavarga, freedom. Do you remember we talked about it? Prakriti and Purusha, where there was no talk about God. There's no talk about Bhakti, God, nothing. Just Sankhya. But the same idea is when Sri Ramakrishna is talking about Maya has 2 aspects, Vidya Maya and Avidya Maya. Avidya Maya is that which traps us in samsara. Vidya Maya is that which frees us from samsara. Devotion, dispassion, knowledge, these are all aspects of Vidya Maya. These names and forms of God, they are also Maya, but they are aspects of Vidya Maya. If you concentrate on them, they will free you from samsara. They will free us from samsara. Name of God, very powerful. The story is that when God created the universe, there was a division of possessions, partition. God said, from now on, my form is my own. You cannot see me in this world, but I am giving you my name. So the name of God is with us. So it's a very beautiful story. The name of God is with us. The way they express these stories, one Swami in Rishikesh, she was telling us a story about the whole of creation. This is the hide and seek with God. When creation starts, that means the universe is projected through Maya. We are all projected into the universe, all the jivas, sentient beings. We're given bodies and we have life after life in these worlds, world after world, and God hides. And we search, lifetime after lifetime, searching for God. Who's hiding? And when the creation ends, Srishti, Sthiti, Pralaya, at the end of creation, when the universe is finally dissolved, all planets, stars, and our bodies and all go back, and we are absorbed back into Prakriti, into Maya. Those who have become enlightened, they realize that they are Brahman and they are free. But those who are not yet enlightened, don't think we'll be enlightened when the universe comes to an end. We'll still remain in suspended animation. Sri Ramakrishna puts it this way. At the end of the harvest, the granny goes out into the field and she collects the seeds and she puts them in different little rags, and ties them in little bundles. Next sowing season, she will take them out and put them back into the field and it will all come up again. So we will remain absorbed in Maya. No, it will be like deep sleep. We have no sense of our separate existence. But all will spring back again. With all our peculiarities and eccentricities will be back again into the world next creation. So when we are absorbed back into Maya, God alone is there with Maya. But we are not there, and God is searching for us. Where did those fellows, where are they hiding? And then He finds us and projects us back into this universe again. So cosmic game of hide and seek, this Swami told us.
So the interesting thing about that, what he said here, is the fact that, again, it goes back to this idea of Sadhguru saying 84. I think the number was 84 is a significant number. And maybe this is, and the fact that a long time ago I remember hearing, this is the end of the video, by the way, I'm going to have to pause it after I'm done speaking, so if you don't want to hear me talk, I'll see you in the next vid. But the interesting thing is also with science, when they said that the universe is slowing down the expansion. And some say that maybe there's only two ways to go, maybe three ways to go. It keeps on expanding and never stops. Maybe it expands and it slows, and I've not heard him say it just stops. I've heard that when expanding and it slows down, and then maybe it's going to contract back again. So, and this goes back into that particular part where everything's going to come back together, Sadhguru and him. How the universe slows down, then it comes back into one where everything becomes a singularity again, and then it explodes again, and then it comes back again, and then it explodes. And the 84 number that Sadhguru was talking about, it makes me wonder, I've wondered this, and him saying that, it just makes me wonder if this universe right here is the 84th time our universe exploded. Basically, where the universe destroyed itself into one, crushed itself into one singularity, and then exploded. And maybe we're in the 50% through this universe's life, and and then when we're 99%, all these universes are coming back together to get crushed again. So that 84 number is maybe how many times the universe has contracted, then explode, contract, explode, contract, explode, 84 times, and we're the 84th time for that. Then him saying about when the universe comes to an end, we're all still just sitting here, and then God comes down and bursts out everything again. It's kind of like all linking together, which is kind of interesting, I'll say. The commonality between these three ideas or things, I don't know what to call it. The science about the universe coming back together, Sadhguru talking about 84 being that, he didn't say precisely, he says 84, that's a significant number. I'm thinking in my head, my opinion and my thoughts on that is that this is the 84th time the universe exploded, and then him saying that same thing, which seems to be three things that confirm the singularity of the universe to the explosion of the universe. Anyway, that's part one of Bhakti Yoga. I didn't really say very much just because it's a lot of stories he's talking about, and there's not really much for me to say. So anyways, again, part one. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. Thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.